Hello, welcome to the 40th edition of Drive-Thru Review. Today we're going to talk about 1955, the War of Espionage. It's a two-player card-driven strategy game. I just picked it up at Gen Con 2011 and actually was almost a Kickstarter backer, but I missed it by a day. But I was able to pre-order it then, and then they were nice enough to let me just pick up my copy when I went to Gen Con. And they were giving demos there, and the feedback was positive there. And I had a couple of chances to play it at Gen Con, now back at home, and quite enjoy it. Without too much to say, it's kind of sort of a Twilight Struggle feel to it, like really streamlined, abstracted, way down. But let me just show you a little bit how it works, and then I'll come back and share my thoughts. Well, what you're seeing here is basically all the components in the game. You've got some cubes here in the middle that you're going to be moving back and forth along these tracks, and each player has this little spy meeple here, one red and one blue, and then you got a deck of cards, and then you got two little cards that are used as sort of cheat sheets and player aids. What you're going to be doing on your turn in the game is you'll have a hand of 5 cards here. And these are multi-purpose cards. You can kind of play them for, op points or influence points, and then you can also use them for, the special action of the card. So that's, a real familiar CDG mechanic. If you played Twilight Struggle or, any of those CDGs. So the first thing that's going to happen at the start of the game, and this is kind of interesting, is you don't actually pick your color. You actually get dealt 5 cards, and then, you randomly decide who's going to go first. And then based on, your starting hand, you're going to pick a home country and sort of, pick a faction. So you may choose to, based on your cards, if you can see the cards, so you've got a blue background there and a red there. And then there's some with a black background that's sort of like neutral, but they're useful for both players. So based on how your hand starts out, you may choose to pick red or blue. And then you're going to pick your home country. You're not always going to be the US or the USSR. This is really abstracted. You're basically 2 opposing spies on sort of, the Axis and the Allies, so to speak. And that's not really accurate, but you get what I'm saying. So you may choose to start Russia here, or sorry, red here, and then blue may pick, the US, and then you set your spy up in your home country, like so. And then you'll start the game. Now the first player is only going to get 1 action per turn, but you normally get 2 actions per turn. So what is the object of the game? Well, the object of the game is to, basically you're trying to pull these blocks towards you. So, the red player here wants to pull all these blocks towards him, and the blue player wants to pull blocks towards him. Now, if the red player pulls the blue player's block all the way to their secure point here, noted by these little stars, they win the game. If you pull any other 3, then you win the game as well. So if the red player had pulled all these 3, they'd win. So that's kind of interesting. You can kind of go for broke, trying to just capture your player's home country, or you can, spread the wealth, so to speak, and try to just capture 3. So the way that you're going to move these pieces back and forth is by playing these cards. So there's a few different ways that you can use these influence points here to move a piece. The first way is just to look at the country flag on the card. In this case, it's France. So you could move the France piece 2 spaces towards you. So in this case, let's say the red player plays the France card over to the discard pile, and we move that 2 spaces. Another way to move the card is you can ignore the country flag and just look at the color or the faction of the card. Now if your spy is in a faction of that color, you can just play this ignoring the country and then move it that many spaces. However, if the country of the flag is the same as the country where your spy is, you can do a couple extra little bonus items. So if I had played this Poland card here for 2, I can move it 2 plus 1 because my spy is there. Or the game will let me combine 2 Poland cards if my spy is in that country to move a total of that many spaces, so in this case 5. Now if your spy is in the country, you can also use a different color faction, but it's at -1 in that case. So if I was in a pinch and I could play this, it would only move 1 space. Now if the spy was over here, and since this is my home country, I can also play a card and move my home country if it's matching the faction. then it'll move the full spaces if it's matching the faction, and then again -1 if the faction doesn't match. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to play cards that match the country flag, or cards anywhere that your spy is, and you get a penalty or bonus depending on the color of the card, and that's outlined pretty easily on this cheat sheets, or playing cards to influence your home country. Now your opponent actually has a chance to block your influence movement. So they can only block it if the spy is in that same country or it happens to be their home country. So in this case, let's say my spy was over here, and you're over here trying to move the U.S. and try to do a quick victory, pulling the blue piece. I can play cards to block that. And you can only play cards of the color of the country, the same faction that is trying to be moved. You can't use red cards to block a movement of a blue country. And so what you do is you just discard as many cards as it takes to be equal to whatever they're trying to move. So if they were trying to move a blue country 4 spaces and you had that country, then you can block it if your spy is there or it's your home country by discarding up to 4 of that color. Now you can always add to either movements or blocking with a mercenary card, and these are sort of like wild cards, and you can use them whenever you want. And you can even use these if you have a spy in a country and you choose to double up on that country's flag, and you can add even more with as many mercenary cards as you want. So these are pretty strong. Now the next thing you can do is you can play the card for a special action, and this is really where the fun of the game comes in. And so you can kind of sneak stuff in, and you can actually, on some of these cards it'll say any turn, and you can actually play it on your opponent's turn, sort of to kind of counter what they're doing. There's actually sort of like a counter spell. Like this one says advance 2 control markers 1 space each, and then this advance, and that may not be blocked normally like you would discarding cards, but the opponent may counter a coordinated attack if they have another coordinated attack to do that. Now there's one special type of card, it's called Gadget Research, and it's going to go in one of the 2 spaces you see down there in the corner and up here in the corner, and I'll show you what those do now. So for one of your actions you can take a Gadget Research card and stick it under here like this. So this one will give you an increased hand size, because you normally have a hand size of 5, so it'll let you have a hand size of 6, and it's nice to have that extra card for sure. And the other thing you can do is have Advanced Transport, and this will give you sort of a free action to discard a card to move your spy on your turn. So what you can do is if you have this filled in here, then you can discard a card either of the country your spy is in or the country you want them to go to. So I could discard Hungary and move them somewhere, or I could discard, let's say USA here, and then they could go to the USA. So after you've done your 2 actions, then you can move your spy anywhere. Before you move your spy, you actually refill your hands. So you have some idea where to go. You say, okay, I've got these cards, I'm going to go over here. But since you can kind of you can bluff a little bit because you have the cards that you can move based on the flag. So you may go way over here and go, I've got a whole bunch of Russia cards here, and I'm going to really jack the Russian. But he might think you're going here and that kind of thing. So this Advanced Transport here is sort of a free action in your turn. If you sort of your spy's in a bad location and you want to get them somewhere quickly, you can do that by discarding a card. But always at the end of your turn you can move your spy if you choose. Now there are action cards that actually push your opponent's spy, like say back to their home country, or like the one I showed you before where you can move your spy on your opponent's turn and things like that. So there's a lot of bluffing. Really the game here is like where your spy is going to be, and as you get to know the cards and what they're capable of, you're going to have some idea what your opponent might be planning. So there's a little bit of guessing here, a little bit of mind work. And there are other cards that are just like this one will counter any special action, and this one will let you draw 2 extra cards before moving your spy. And just one little action I'll go over here. Name a country. This country's control marker may not be moved until the end of your next turn. So if your opponent has got your red piece moved way over here and you're not in good shape, you might want to hold on to a card like that. So that's kind of where the tension comes in, and hold it, because the actions are fairly strong, but a lot of times people are just going to want to just discard stuff for influence. So there's certain cards that you definitely want to hold on to, and as you play the game more and hopefully have an opponent that's played the game quite a bit, then the game starts to become more interesting that way. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview of 1955. It's a fun game. It's a quick, two-player light card game. It's got tug of war, but it doesn't really bog down that much. You've got those actions that'll, kind of change things on the fly, and you've got to kind of watch where your opponent is putting the spy. This is a game I think that will maybe wear out its welcome a little bit after you play it too much. I kind of feel that a little bit, but it's one that I feel like even though I'll put it away for a little bit, I'll bring it out once in a while. And it's got that, it's sort of a filler game, but it still plays pretty quick, and it's just got fun, theme, and I like that theme, the whole West versus East in the 50s or the 80s or whatever. I really get engaged with that theme. So it's one that you can pull out and play quickly, and if somebody really likes this theme, they'll get right into it. And the only thing maybe is the experience level is going to really drastically weigh down the game, because some people won't see the value of certain cards and things like that. So that's kind of a nice aspect in some ways, but when you're teaching the game to somebody new, it's like, well, they just get walked all over, I think. So anyway, it's a good, fun little game, and look for it. I don't think it's really released right now at the time of this video, but it should be coming out, for a more wide release over the next couple of months, I think. So anyway, it's real fun. Thanks.